Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Erwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
Happy Wednesday, everybody.
Reuben Bressler.
Good evening. How's it going?
It's wonderful. We're here. We're making it happen.
We're safe in our abodes.
We're not
as
bleeding.
as the world continues to fall down around us, but
right.
Things are going.
But you're here to talk about silly Magic cards and
That's
Magic
right.
news, and that's why we're here to provide you. Mm-hmm. So we kick it off with our first pick in the giveaway. Get your chance at a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com by typing !raffle in the chat, but subscribe first to get 2 chances to win. And don't forget our raid at the end of the show to support a member of the community. Enter your suggestions at the end of the show to see who we raid tonight.
Or now, or during the show.
Or whatever, just tag groups. It's fine, whatever. That said, we get started with our first pick, which is, of course, Kaldheim Previews. There are so many. The new set is coming. And as we had spoke a little bit, draft boosters are going to be kind of hard to find. That still stays relevant. We at Cool Stuff, we had finally gotten enough sort of draft boosters we could list them, and they're selling like twice as fast as set booster boxes.
Remind me again what those are.
Well, set booster boxes give you less packs, but guarantee you a foil, and you could open up to 3 mythics and a rare in the same pack. Plus, you have the list cards that you can open up stuff like Food Chains and Cavern of Souls and all this other stuff.
As opposed to booster packs, which people are used to.
Which you just draft, like all the booster packs you're used to over the years, yada, yada, yada.
Then why don't we just call them booster packs?
Well, because they're different products, so you can't call them exact same
because it's a different product, yeah.
Okay.
It's silly. But either way, Kaldheim is here. People are excited about it. The cards are coming out. Some silliness has been unveiled. Talk about my first 3 picks here to discuss. First up being Mystical Reflection. This came out today. This is a translation, but regardless. It's a blue and generic mana for a rare instant. It says, choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers would enter the battlefield this turn, they enter the battlefield as copies of the chosen creature instead, and it also has Foretell of a blue.
Yeah. During
During your turn, you may pay 2 generic mana and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost.
What the hell is this?
Nice Ugin you got there. It's a Lana War Elf.
I've seen I've seen a bunch of theories or possible ways that you can abuse this. Obviously, a lot of people want to do something nasty to Uro. There were some people in Legacy that were talking about copying their young pyromancers and having a field day with that. Somebody on my Twitter feed had suggested using it with Master of Waves and then just kind of going kind of infinite with that. And
going ham with that.
A
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
cool.
possibilities with this. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that some people are talking about Avenger of Zendikar and going infinite or whatever. You can't go infinite, but you get that one trigger and all of them become that one thing.
Sure. And then you play a land and go to town.
Right, because it says the next time a permanent or a creature would enter the battlefield or whatever. So you get that one time, but you do it on a deranged tournament, you get like 16 squirrels or something. Like it's nuts, which is, nuts, get it? All right.
Wow. That was actually really funny.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I missed it the first time, but I had to back up and do a 3-point turn to come back to that joke. But it
just feels like this is a incredible mind freak card where you're like, do they have it? Like, are they bluffing it? They keep a blue open. They've got this foretold.
They've got a foretold card,
from like 3 turns ago. And if I go for it and they have it, I'm screwed.
I am really looking forward to the Foretell mind games because it is going to be a game of 3-card Monty of like which weird instance and which combat tricks are foretold right now, and
I guess it's no secret that all 3 of my cards have Foretell on them.
Oh, jeez.
Because they're awesome.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Oh, hey.
Jeepers.
Well, moving on here to Starnheim Unleashed. This is a 2 white, 2 generic mana mythic sorcery that makes a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. And if this spell was foretold, you create X of those tokens instead. And it has Foretell of white XX.
It's like a fixed... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good.
It's like
you're right where I am. So, yeah, exactly. Entreat the Angels, Decree of Justice. They keep making these weird angel sorceries that have XX and a white in their alternate cost.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, it's like a super cycle almost, where you have... You know, if you cast it in this weird way, you get X of them. How cool. But this is a super powerful card. I mean, even a 4/4 flyer for 4 with flying and vigilance, I mean, that's better than Sarah Angel, I mean, on rate. And then, later in the game, you can foretell or you can just do it turn 2, and then on turn 5 get 2 angels. Right.
You have the ability to kind of, parse that out essentially. By default, it's a Sarah Angel. You'd foretell it for 2, you play for 3, you get a 4/4, whatever. But for me, the power in this card is not you're going to do that on turn 2 and turn 3. No, you're never going to do that. You're going to foretell it early in the game and then Wrath of God and do your stuff and control all out.
You can turn 2 foretell, turn 3 make an angel, to be fair.
And you certainly can. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is, to me, the power of this card is that it's a control card. This is a game-ending card. This is a card that you leave sitting out there that can bluff all of your other foretell cards until you need it. And it's weird, this card in particular, because as I found it and I tweeted about it, I was like, man, this card is bananas. Finally, some good white cards and yada yada. And people were like, oh, I think this card's kind of crap. And I'm like, have you read this card? Do you know what this thing does?
I mean,
For 5 mana, I get 2/4/4 angels. What?
It is. Yeah, I mean, it attacks and blocks and has evasion. And has, it's very, very good at what it does.
Right. And the cost and the discount and all that good stuff is not to be underestimated, in my opinion. Because what card would you rather have foretold face down, waiting for them, than saw it coming?
Yeah, I mean,
for 2 blue and a generic mana, this is cancel. 2 blue and a generic mana for an uncommon instant that counters target spell. Sure, whatever. But it has foretell of a blue and a generic mana.
I can't believe that they put a blue and a generic on this card. I thought for sure that this would be blue-blue. I thought for sure it was going to be actual foretell counterspell. Colorless into blue, I mean, that's a kind of a game changer in a lot of ways.
It honestly told me that I don't think this card is probably as good as it reads, if that makes sense.
It reads really good.
Because it reads so good. I'm like, I need this card in every control deck until it rotates out of standard. Like, don't you want to bluff this all day? You just keep the blue and a generic mana up the whole time.
Honestly, that's its biggest value. Is not even that having this card in your deck or in your foretell zone. It's being able to bluff this card.
Yeah, it's the fact that it exists.
Yeah, the fact that it exists, it makes me very happy.
I think Pharmacist Judge brings up a really good point. You have to do the exiling and at sorcery speed. So you're basically, and that's kind of the antithesis of what Control wants to be doing, where, ideally you want to keep mana up at all times so that you can prepare for whatever your opponent might have. But, if you're having to do this on your turn, that's rough.
Yeah, but this card makes all the other foretell cards better. Right? Yeah, because just by this card simply existing, even if it's not in your deck, you can bluff it. And that's awesome.
Right. A lot of times, in my experience, turn 2 for a control deck is doing not a lot of much. So if your turn 2 is foretell go, you can do stuff. On my turn 3, I'll kill something. On my turn 4, I'll wrath something. And on turn 5, moving forward...
I mean, it's been a while since I played. And the last control deck I played in Standard was Blue-White Approach. And I was casting Essence Scatter, and I was doing things.
Sure. And again, this card, might not be that good as a result of sort of the way the mana works and the way the tempo works. But man, it reads great. Reuben, tell us about your cards, buddy.
So we're going to start off with a bang, or more realistically, an Earth Shake. We're going to begin with Quakebringer.
Get you.
This card is a lot. So Quakebringer is a 5/4 for 3 colorless red. That's like a fire elemental for a giant berserker. Your opponents can't gain life. Love that.
Okay, Reuben, you need to move on from Rampaging Ferocidon. This is...
I can't move on from Rampaging Ferocidon.
You're seeing it everywhere.
This is justice for Ferocidon.
Please, justice.
It also has, at the beginning of your upkeep, Quakebringer deals 2 damage to each opponent. So, Sulfuric Vortex. This ability triggers only if Quakebringer is on the battlefield, or if Quakebringer is in your graveyard and you control a giant. I mean, Bone Crusher Giant still sitting around. Everybody still plays Stomp. This is not that hard to have a giant in play while this is in your graveyard. And Foretell of 4 mana. So, your 2 mana removes it, and then you can drop this on turn, a 5/4 for 4 on turn 4. This card is amazing, right? Am I wrong?
I mean, I got excited about it until I realized... So when I saw in the graveyard, I was like, oh, sweet. And then it was like graveyard and you need a giant. I was like, and we're out.
I mean, there's a lot of giants that exist. I mean,
There is a lot of giants. It's funny. It's weird to me that the thing that doubles giant damage doesn't double stomp. that does Stomp is not a giant spell technically, which is kind of weird to me. But yeah, this card is like, it seems
and
okay.
They stack. You put, I mean, the first one dies, you play another one, it deals 4. It dies, you play another one.
And like, there's lots of cards, particularly even in Kaldheim, of like, put cards in your graveyard. Get the cards in the graveyard as soon as possible. Aaron can totally respect that. Just like, get the cards in there.
Shout out to Hippen too from chat though, because believe me, when this card got previewed, you bet your ass I went to Goldfish and I was like, do I have any giants? This is Golem. Is there any way I can make this work?
I mean, there's changelings in the set.
We got the new changeling Snowland too.
Like, still a lot left giant. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, any port in a storm.
I'll play a Cloud Goat Ranger. I'm not too sad about that.
So, but with Foretell of 2 red and 2 generic mana, like, it's a cheaper 5/4. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the Foretell isn't super relevant.
Am I the only one that's very confused by Fort? So when Foretell first came out, at least it was my understanding that it was an even split. Like, you were still paying. So, for example, if the cost of the card was 4, then the Foretell was 2, and then the other was 2. Like, it was my understanding that you were paying the full price for the installments. But now I feel like I'm seeing cards where it's more, where it's like the card costs 4, but between the Foretell and the other cost, it's like 5, and it's like that throws me off.
I mean, some of them.
Right.
I mean, then there's Mystical Reflection, which costs 2 and has a Foretell of 1.
I just found it a little off-putting, but that's maybe just me.
Right. This to me is designers having fun tweaking the knobs, right? And making it, how much do you want to pay for it? How much would you pay for it?
I'm not sure I like my knobs tweaked.
Wow.
Really?
Really? Seriously?
I love getting my knobs tweaked.
One of the 3 of us worked at a porn store. All right, let's move on. What's your next card, Reuben?
I was going to... Okay, moving on. So...
it's a family show. We have a pre-show for that.
So I've been telling a long story with the Broken Pact, which I'll talk about more later in the show. But a large central portion of that, and in all of Dungeons & Dragons lore, is that the planes are interconnected in some way, shape, or form. And one of the ways that in the D&D lore they're connected is through something called Yggdrasil, the world tree, which comes from Norse mythology and has been adopted into the Forgotten Realms and things like that. And lo and behold, 2 years after I started telling a story and referenced the world tree, we actually get the world tree on a card, which is super cool. The world tree is a land that enters the battlefield tapped, notably not a legendary land, even though it has the in front of it. And that was explained recently in a Good Morning Magic.
Controversial, too.
It has tap, add a green mana. As long as you control 6 or more lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. And Wooburg, that's white, blue, black, red, green, tap, sacrifice the world tree. Search your library for any number of god cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. For those of you playing along at home.
You just put them on the battlefield. They don't even come into play tapped.
Oh, are you sure?
Yeah, then right there.
Well, Scryfall, your description of what the card does is different than what the card
says.
So you just put them on the battlefield. All right, cool. So now my what would this be? Perforos. Everything gains haste.
Right.
This is a cool card.
I would like to get excited about this card, but you have to understand that like Uro and Field of the Dead are like in every format, and they're running that Dryad that makes all of your lands other lands, and so this is not necessarily a setback. Like, I don't think they're going to want to do the work of like packing your deck full of gods and all of that, but it was just really cute that in with all the cards that have recently been printed, that this is supposed to be a drawback. Like, I don't think it's going to be the hindrance they think it is.
They've only printed 44 gods so far.
Well, and then every changeling is a god, and there's a card that turns all of your creatures into whatever type you want and whatnot in standard.
Okay,
so
I mean, we can combo with this thing pretty easily, but I think that this thing is much closer to Maze's End. So it's not going to be. This is not going to be rampaging through standard. I don't think. I just love that it exists.
I wanted. Well, me personally, I wanted this to be legendary, and I talked to Rosewater about it, and I watched Gavin's Good Morning Magic episode.
I just called up my buddy Mark.
Well, no, I mean, I talked to him on Twitter, publicly. I didn't DM him or anything.
But you can. Okay, great.
I mean,
he didn't come over to my house. We didn't bake cookies.
Look, all I'm saying is that
Erin hasn't ever name dropped in her life.
I was over so-and-so's house getting drunk with such and such. Anyway, the point is, I was talking about it, and they were saying, you know, I get all of the arguments. I totally understand it, right? I get it. Like, drawing 2 legendary lands sucks, even though Chore Care exists. They haven't made legendary lands in a long time. That's okay. Not everyone plays Commander format, so there's people who play with more than just one card in their deck. Okay, that's fine, too. But I think there is, and I get that, you know, they wrote it away because there's mana lines or something, whatever. The point is, they took away something I felt made cards very special, which is it's really special to be a legendary land. It means something. It gives it more gravitas than just, you literally named it what a legendary land would be named, but you don't have it legendary. That to me is a weird disconnect that I feel like there is a flavor loss in there. Gameplay might be improved, but there's a flavor loss involved that I don't like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
And this card in particular, like, is it bad to sort of make you work for this type of card? Do you really want to have 4 world trees out and then just pop a world tree and go nuts? Like, I don't...
Right.
Just thematically, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It just feels odd. That's all.
Sure.
All right, so go ahead, Reuben. You got one more.
Yeah, so my last one is going to be Funeral Longboat. And it's 2 colorless for an artifact vehicle. It's a 3/3 with Vigilance and Crew 1. And it's a common. This card's bananas, right? Like, this card is absolutely absurd. Like, I want every copy that I can get in draft.
I was thinking, are you literally not making the smuggler's copter joke here?
I mean, I wasn't gonna, but it's a common smuggler's copter for draft, and it seems insane in Pauper. This card's insane, right? Am I missing something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have evasion, it doesn't draw you cards.
It has received its official Pauper blessing from the Maverick Girl.
All right, amazing
Pauper.
with Nettle Sentinel and Quirion Ranger. I can dig it.
Is this for elves? Does elves want this? What?
I don't know if elves wants it, but like some sort of stompy deck, I imagine. I don't know what's playable in Pauper, but the numbers on this card are crazy to me. Like, this card just seems absolutely bananas. And if Maverick Girl's on my side, then you guys can stuff it. Is what I have to say about it.
I mean,
Hashtag blame Kendra.
Smuggler's Copter was a broken Magic card, so
it was.
Yeah.
This being a smaller, slightly more fair version, I'm okay with.
And it blocks. It's got Vigilance.
It does have blocking and vigilance. Erin, what's your first pick here?
All right, so from fair cards to broken cards. So the first card that I picked, and this might be an unusual choice for me, but I can't deny how fun this card is. My first pick is going to be Tibalt's Trickery. So Tibalt's Trickery is 1 colorless and a red. It's an instant. It says counter target spell on a red card. Like, let's talk about that.
First 3 words.
And then it says choose 1, 2, or 3 at random, which is very Tibalt. Its controller mills that many cards and then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than that spell. They may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then they put the exiled cards on the bottom of their library in a random order. So it's basically the new Chaos Warp. You're essentially taking a gamble that whatever your opponent is doing, that they have something less scary than that in their deck, and you are willing to take that risk. And so I think this is fascinating. I love this space that it's playing in. As I've said before, I like red when it's not doing red things. You know, do I want to be tapping you on the forehead and going take 3? No, but this is a really cool space, and I look forward to trying this card out.
Yeah.
This card has like a weird built-in insurance, into it, where it's like you're not going to get to just flip over Emrakul.
Yeah.
If you're able to somehow scry 4 and make sure that there's 3 lands in Emrakul, like, congratulations, you did it.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt it has to be exciting when you see a red and generic mana instant that says counter target spell. And then words. I don't care. But the first thing it said was counter target spell on a red spell.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
This seems like a really good answer to Thassa's Oracle in literally every format that Thassa's Oracle exists.
I mean, sure. It's weird.
So you counter the Oracle, and then you mill 3. So
and then they have no cards left in their deck.
Wow. Well, I mean, any Doomsday player worth their salt, can put a combo. I mean, it's annoying. You can definitely probably get somebody with it. But.
Especially if I don't have any blue mana in my deck. They're not expecting me to counter their spells. Like, can you imagine I'm playing Goblin Guides in Legacy, and somebody tries to Doomsday me, and I counter their spell? Like...
I mean, think about it. There's plenty of things where you're like, I don't care what you could play as
Right.
long as it's not this spell.
Well, there was the white card, too. There was a white card that was like exile something, and then the opponent gets to play something from their hand. And again, you're taking that gamble that whatever you've got up there is less scary than what I'm dealing with right now. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's super cool because, this is, you're spinning the wheel, but again, it could be, you're countering their whatever, and then they show, like, they flip over a counter spell or something, and you're like, that's great, awesome, GG, because it doesn't matter, which is awesome. All right, go ahead.
My second card also has red in it. What is this, right? This is a card that I'm really excited about from my Rakdos the Showstopper deck. My second choice is Kardur Doomscourge. So Kardur is 2, a black and a red. It's a legendary creature, Demon Berserker. When it enters the battlefield until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able. And then it says, whenever an attacking creature dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So my Rakdos deck is obviously about chaos. I like to put on a good show. I like to entertain people. And also, I run Conjurer's Closet. So
Yeah. Okay.
I'm more than happy to just blink this baby and let's just do this.
Forever and ever and ever.
Has anybody made the Coach Carter joke yet? For this card?
No.
Coach Carter. No? Nobody's heard of Coach Carter? Okay, never mind.
Was that the Samuel L. Jackson movie?
That was a Samuel L. Jackson movie where he was a basketball coach. Boy, this card's weird.
I'm getting a little freaked out by all the uncommon legends.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing
It's fine. It's
a
good for
lot of
Commander.
uncommon legends.
Like the Simic Snow thing that was like pretty crazy too.
Which is weird,
Yeah.
a whole bunch of words. Also note that like literally every card in this set has like 50 plus words on it.
Yeah.
Like,
It's a very wordy set. Yeah.
super wordy set. Like we're back to sort of the Ikoria, everything has 37 words, and even before then, it's a lot. But the card itself is super neat in that what it does, and if you can blink it, it's cool.
It's a signpost uncommon, which I really appreciate. I love signpost uncommons.
Yeah. This
is
you need
like
to be in the
tells you
black-red
what you
berserker
want to
deck.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, be in the aggressive deck. That's what you want to do. And what's your third card, Aaron?
Oh no.
Here we go.
I can't believe you chose
having
this.
A perfectly lovely afternoon. I was eating some Popeyes and watching Murder, She Wrote, and minding my own business, and my notifications blew up, which isn't always a good thing. So I decided to go on the bird and see what people were talking about. And there was a young lady who goes by the name of Talia Vess. She decided to show her preview card to everybody. And as it happens, it is also a piece of graveyard hate. So my third card is Weathered Runestone, also known as Why?
Yeah.
Why? So Weathered Runestone is 2 colorless. It's an artifact. It says non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. And if that's not enough for you, players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. Like, here's what tickles me about this. This is a set full of snow nonsense. Like, people have been asking for a snow hate card, and the one they did print is mediocre at best. You also have this weird exile space with, like, foretell happening. But yet, Wizards is focused on graveyards. Like, what are you worried about? Like, what the graveyard things you have?
They're worried about that snow zombie
are
that
so
brings
incidental. Like, what do you? It just seems like a weird diversion where it's like
It is.
snow, weird exile zone, but we got to keep graveyards down. Like, I don't understand. Like,
There's definitely some recursion in the set that we've seen a little bit of so far.
and libraries too. Let's not forget.
You're not doing it. There's nothing like ridiculously busted that needs to be like shut down in this set.
We
Like,
don't know yet. Things
This
can
card,
go cray-cray.
this card's bananas in every format, right?
Well, I mean,
it's
in
an
most
anti-rock.
In most situations, Cage is better just because it's cheaper,
Okay.
and
It's cheaper.
I mean,
Sure.
you could stop a Tinker with it. Like, you can't Tinker Citadel with this, but I mean, like,
Yeah, what's the difference between this and Cage, actually?
so
more
Cage
mana
is
and stops.
creatures can't enter the battlefield from libraries and
Creatures
graveyards,
and-
and you can't cast spells from your graveyard.
Right.
Or library.
Right.
Whereas this is non-land permanents.
This is non-land
Right.
permanents, not just creatures.
Right.
And players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. So this stops spells and non-land permanents.
That's the same
so
as Grafdigger's Cage. Is my,
Right.
is my
I mean,
So
it's
it's everything,
marginal, but it's the principle where it's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, who asked for this?
Well, also note, again, Innistrad is later this year. They give us our hate cards in fits and starts. I'll be honest, I was a little surprised this wasn't rare, just because like it's completely pointless, I'm guessing, in draft. And if it is, do you really want to play this in draft? Like,
I was surprised that they told us that that rune is going to be a card type, and then the runestone isn't a rune. That was a little confusing to me.
It's rude, but it's not a rune.
It is rude.
Yeah,
it is a rude stone.
That's what it is.
The rude stone.
Rude runes out of here.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But shout out to the people who tagged me in this. That's hashtag branding.
I love the art too. The art is serene. It fits the flavor of what you want for like a damping sphere null rod kind of effect, where it's just winter orby, kind of calm, sitting by itself, but still very clearly magical. I think it's a cool art.
I don't know. It looks a little generic.
What is happening? Nothing. That's what's going on in that.
Oh man.
Goodness gracious. All right, then. Let's move on here to gather the townsfolk. Kaldheim Early Access Streamer Event is going to be happening the day before it releases. This would be on the 27th. I'm currently doing the best I can to reach out to the peeps.
Yeah,
if we can be involved in this one.
It's a little confusing. We're not quite sure. So in the how you become a part of it, how you get to participate in this is very confusing. So for a while there, they used to send you invites. Like they had a group of people. Yes. Then they moved over to this Streamlabs thing where like if you were an official content creator, you had to apply through this portal. And now I'm hearing, like, I'm just looking at the replies here, and it just seems like some people are in, some people aren't. We're not really sure. Like it's not clear.
I don't know. Do we make Smite Wizards really mad again? I don't know.
I don't think it's just. I don't think it's you. I think it's just. I think honestly, since the creator program seems like it's been in a bit of a lull since Mishi left.
Yeah.
So maybe they're still kind of like picking up
They're
the pieces,
still rejiggering, however, they're going to end up... Also, that $1 million prize to creators from 2020.
Did you see that? That 6 months. Carrie Carrie from Twitter had asked people, like, did anybody ever receive any money from that Greenlight program? And they couldn't find anybody
They couldn't find anybody.
Well, they also couldn't find... Well, I'll also note that Wizards runs on NDAs. Like, they are...
Sure.
NDAs are in their blood, and if they were to give you $100,000, they might not want you to talk about it until they're ready for them to talk about it.
Even if you couldn't talk about it, shouldn't we at least see the fruits of that work by now? Like, you had a year.
Maybe.
Like...
Right. I mean, part of it feels like it was right now. Sort of when that was released, it was like, okay, it could very well be there's something going on in the background, right? But also, like, wouldn't you want to kind of speak up at that point, even as wizards or as people who are
even
involved,
just to cover your butt to show that you gave it to somebody, like,
right? Like, did you do anything with that money? Or did you just, like,
either way, the creator program and a bunch of things having to do with streamers are up in the air, so to speak. And when we know, so will you.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
But yet they're organizing. Aren't they doing an early access event by phone? Like, isn't the mobile arena doing one?
Wait, they are?
I could have sworn there was like a mobile arena one. Chat, tell me I'm not crazy.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I could have sworn I read that there was a mobile arena early access thing. Well, somebody help me out here.
Yeah, please do. I'll check out the chat as it goes along here. But moving on, Wizards had announced that there's going to be a new specialized cube, the Spotlight Cube series. This one coming from Elizabeth Rice with the Temur Cube, which means only green, blue, or red cards are in this.
Okay, it's in pre-beta. Thanks, Chad.
Nice. Ryan Overturf's Grixis Cube happened and was a success, and so Elizabeth has her list here where you have all these types of the archetypes. You have mono red aggro, artifacts, green ramp, elves, Gruul smashing, storm is in this cube, which is fun. So there's lots of really cool options of things you can do just with those three colors, and also let's sort of designers flex their muscles a little bit. I certainly know that back when I was building and working on my cube constantly, there was this point where it's like you just can't go too far into one color because all the others are going to suffer. But if you just said, what if we just got rid of those two colors entirely? How do we keep it balanced?
I didn't know you had a cube.
I didn't. I don't here recently, but I did for a very, very long time. Yeah. And back when the format was like first coming out, I was a big proponent of it.
Evan was the cube guy for a long time. He was like the guy.
I had no idea.
You had CubeDrafting.com.
I ran CubeDrafting.com.
Oh,
that's right.
Okay.
And, you feel free to Google my name and Cube Draft. You'll still find a list I had from years ago.
Yeah.
It was fun. I actually gave a talk on the Magic Cruise about cubing, which was the thing I recorded and posted.
Remember the Magic Cruise?
Magic Cruises, dude. That was something.
Remember going on cruise ships?
Mm-hmm. Remember cruising?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. We cruised, didn't we? All right. Moving on here to some monthly in-store play updates from Wizards of the Coast. Now,
Great.
obviously,
what's the update? Tell me what the update is.
Well, the biggest update in this one particular is that they have increased the maximum entry fee for both Arena and Magic Online tournaments to $25. So you can have multi-$1,000 prizes now when you have entry fees of $25.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting.
Speaking of events, they also mentioned they released the price point for those tokens, where you can be able to get any card you want from Magic Online. I'm surprised we didn't put that in the show notes.
I guess it wasn't either it wasn't linked or I totally missed it, because we definitely want to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's part of the Magic Online update, I believe, which is it not here somewhere? That was weird.
No, I don't see it.
Oh, well, that was definitely my mistake. There was a Magic Online update that said they're going to give you the ability to pay $24.99 to get 2 weeks of essentially what you describe as a God account.
Right.
It has 4 of everything that you can use in it. You can enter in any events. You still have to pay entry fees, but you can enter in any events that you want, and that's a thing you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is that worth it? I don't know.
Yeah, and so it led to a lot of discussion as to, is this something they should do permanently? If so, how much should it be? But it sounds like they're rolling this out for the Vintage PTQ, because there is a Vintage PTQ on the 24th of the month. Like, that is awesome. Like, I don't even want to be on the Pro Tour, and I will play in this thing. Like, they
should have like a set price all year, and then like have sales so that you can get a discount.
It's tough because like. We're kind of like, this is against our own interest to have this exist, because Card Hoarder is where you can get Magic Online cards, every day.
If you want, with loan accounts
and stuff,
you can either buy the cow or get the milk for
$24.99 for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I didn't think through.
You really didn't. All right, so they mention here,
okay.
Right? They mention here that you can buy essentially a Mythic event token for $25. Mm-hmm. Purchasing a single Mythic event token provides access to almost every card. You can try new ideas to win prizes in leagues and queues. With you have to put in the entry in there.
Yep.
Take on their best in format challenges and showcases and stuff, and yada yada.
Always remember to mind your leagues and queues.
Nice.
And we are seeing the fruits of this. Like, I belong to not only a Vintage Discord, but I obviously belong to the Dredge Discord. And we've seen an influx of players in both the Legacy and Vintage channels that are just these hungry little baby birds that are like, what do I do? I need a sideboard guide. What deck do I build? And, in the Vintage channel, we have all sorts of new pilots that are playing Doomsday, and they're playing shops. And, they're trying all sorts of new brews and bringing a lot of new life into these formats. And so it's really exciting.
Right. This is one of the things that, I have asked, begged for, talked, discussed, we have looked at for years and years and years. It was, would you please let us purchase the ability to play with whatever we want? We'll buy entry into the events or whatever. And even still, like, it's not like, black and white in terms of like, you should just buy this versus renting a deck that you want from Card Hoarder. Like, there's different values you're paying in all of those different scenarios. Mm-hmm. So make sure that if you get this pass or whatever, you use it to its, fullest essentially, so you can.
Yeah, I think this is also just a glimmer of proof that if you just I don't want to leap to like a reserve list argument necessarily, but I think this does go to show you that if you just make cards available, people will play these formats. You keep hearing that Legacy's dying and Vintage is dying. Well, yeah, because no one can get the cards. But like, if you put everybody in an even playing field, people want to try these formats. People want to do cool things, and if you just give them a chance, they'll come.
And this was something I was talking about online, or on Twitter rather, which is, they don't have to just do this, like, you get it and you get all the cards. What if you got, like, 4x of Standard for a certain price? What if you got 4x of Pioneer, 4x of Modern, right? Like, you can slice and dice this into certain formats or events. You don't necessarily have to say, you just get everything or you get nothing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. But
totally.
Yeah, it's a tool in the toolbox that they can use because, my guess is the revenues from online have been going down. The revenues for Arena have been going wherever they're going. Sure. And, to help bring in some more sales, this is something they can do.
Do you really think they're going down, though? What else are people doing? Like, they can't go to stores.
I'm just speculating in that I think, Arena is the shinier, pushed client. Yeah. Like, obviously, the diehards are the diehards, and they're never going anywhere.
Sure.
Right. But, like, the new players, I don't feel they're going to
No,
Magic
they're not
Online.
going to Arena.
But I don't think Magic Online is this, pity case,
Sure. And that's fair. It's certainly stood the test of time, regardless of haters like me who have certainly, said, well, it's on its last legs. It's gone in 5 years, and it's not been going anywhere, really. Let's see here. Moving forward, this was interesting. Scryfall now supports Gladiator and Premodern.
Oh boy.
I didn't even know what that meant most of the time.
I also don't know what that means. I'm sure they also support tiny leaders.
Gladiator is 100 card singleton on Arena.
Oh, okay.
It's not Brawl. You don't have a commander. It's just a 100 card singleton format, and you find matches via Discord or whatever.
Oh, okay. But it's not supported on Arena.
Correct.
You have to find the matches on.
Right. You have to do direct challenges, which
I can't be bothered.
Right.
I'm not entertained.
Right. Premodern is 4th edition through Scourge.
Right. I've heard of Premodern.
Yeah,
it's a cool format.
Right. So they're both supported now on Scryfall. And these weird little tiny side formats, they have their people who love them. They have their fans. Great. So let's do it.
Fantastic. I'm glad. It's like no skin off their nose, right? Like it's easy for them to put a new filter in.
Sure.
So I'm glad that they support it.
Right. When it comes to Premodern, the fact that will never change, X, Y, that's it forever. Yep. Like, you can just stick that in there and not worry about it.
I mean, these formats are definitely not for me, but I do appreciate people that are sort of chasing their happiness. They could be on Twitter and complaining about how a format isn't for them, or you can just make your own format.
Yeah, exactly.
Go get 'em.
I mean, Magic has, 30 million players worldwide these days. Not everyone is going to, exactly. You got to find your happiness.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's move on here to
Wasn't Premodern, didn't they call it middle school at one point? Like, am I thinking
middle school.
Because people didn't like old school, because old school had weird arbitrary rules.
It was called middle school.
It was a school format of let's go to middle school.
Silly, but branding, I guess.
Yeah, it was good.
I wanted to talk a little bit about here on Desperate Ravings, the parasocial relationship and Magic content.
Yeah.
A hell of an article came out this week from Lawrence Harmon on Channel Fireball.
Yeah, so the concept of parasocial relationships is an interesting one, and really what it boils down to is the way that people perceive their interactions with people. And he lists a lot of really great examples in terms of how gender is a factor, the way that visible personalities who are male are treated versus the way that visible personalities who are non-male are treated, the perception that people have, where he gives an example here of one person may send 11 tweets to someone. And the person receiving them may only see one of them. And so the moral of this is really just to, kind of at the end of it here, there's a list of do's and don'ts, and just kind of respecting people's boundaries is a big one. Respecting the boundaries of friendships. Parasocial relationships can make you feel like you know somebody more than you actually do. Just because you watch our pre-show and you get to hear embarrassing details about us doesn't necessarily make us friends. If you see two people who are friends on Twitter and they appear to be, telling comfortable jokes with each other, you are not in on that joke. And so that's a boundary that you need to respect. And a lot of really, really good points here. We could have taken up the whole pre-show talking about this. We could probably take up the whole live show talking about this. But, just something I think a lot of us just don't think about. But when you really look at how we interact with each other as creators and as fans or even just as mutuals, there's a lot of subtext there.
Yeah. And also knowing when you're in a situation of when you're a peer as opposed to when you're a fan. I find myself in situations where I live in Los Angeles. I'm surrounded by people that I idolize at, industry events or at parties. And sometimes I have to remember we're just at a bar. We should just be people here. Yeah. And then another time, if I'm at a con and I'm waiting in line to get their signature, it's a different social construct. There's a different... So knowing how to navigate those things is very difficult. There's also the layer of gender and, race and all of the other things that play into dangers on the internet, Like, for example, my cheese daddy knows my address, right? My cheese daddy shout out to my cheese daddy in the chat, because they sent me cheese, right? So they know that's a fan of the show who knows where I live. That might not be the best idea for a woman on the internet, right? For someone more famous than me. Right? So there's a lot of layers happening.
And it's a situation that we also perpetuate. Part of being a content creator nowadays is to, you want people to feel like they're talking to a friend. And so you do say like, hey guys, and you're letting people in. And, he talks about that too, that to a certain extent, we're responsible for that because we are creating the illusion that you are hanging out with us. We say it on the show. We say thanks for hanging out or whatever. And so, we understand that if we create that situation, that people will feel like they are our friend, they will feel like they're hanging out with us, and then they will sub, they will give us bits, they will whatever. And so, is that something?
They'll subscribe on Patreon.
It's just something to know about yourself, particularly on Twitch.
Yeah,
because Twitch is a very personal platform.
Yeah,
right. This is about sort of the nuances of communicating with somebody and what you can or cannot necessarily say, and or how it can come off to other people. Like, for example, it is difficult for example, me or Reuben to say that a female on Twitter is attractive in some way without coming off weird, creepy, like, why did you say that? Now she feels weird about it. And why did you bring that up? Like, you know what I mean? It opens a whole can that you didn't even know was there.
Just keep your opinions to yourself. Don't expect
I don't think it's a canceling
anything.
issue. Like, I didn't take his article to mean that.
Me neither.
I just think it means...
Not necessarily, I'm saying... Think of how you're interacting with people is what I'm explaining. Is that not just how you're interacting with them, but how other people will see you interacting with them and what that means. And that's also sort of the inside joke thing you were talking about. But it's a different layer of it. It's the, I can't interact with people certain ways because it doesn't come off the way I want it to, it just doesn't. I can't say like, wow, that's, that's sexy. That's not going to work.
I don't think that's what it's
you're
about.
Focusing on
too much on like things you can't do. I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's just about just recognizing, because social media creates this illusion of closeness, that we're not as close as we think we are. And, just because even co-hosts, not all co-hosts are friends. There are some co-hosts that once they're done logging with their show, they log off and that's the end of it. And just because I follow somebody and we've talked on Twitter, that doesn't mean I know them. And it doesn't mean that I have the right to, give them advice on their life choices, nor do they know me. And so, if I do something wrong, it's, we thought we knew her, but you don't know me. You know what I've chosen to show you. And so I don't think it was about, like I said, canceling or anything. I think it was just about like, let's really reevaluate. Are we really all friends here? Are we the people that we are subscribing to? They're not our friends.
Just do a check-in. The best thing that I can say, if you are in a situation where you are a fan, cool, great, and you approach whoever it is either on social media or in real life. Obviously, social media is weird because we are both closer and further away than we've ever been from each other. But you can gauge that barometer yourself, or have someone who's better at social cues help you gauge it for you. But always sort of step back, get the third person view, and say, is what I'm doing? Would I consider? Is what I'm doing? What if it happened to me? Would I think it's weird?
Right,
like, take a step back.
If you
and
watch
check
the pre-show, after every show, we cuss each other out. We call each other's mothers' names. It's weird, but we got special names. And then we just hate log off.
But just do a check-in. Just like, excuse me, is this situation making you uncomfortable?
Yeah,
that's a fine thing to say in the middle of a conversation.
To have. It's a good conversation to have for sure. And we'll leave on one horrible note that the time span between Coldsnap, which was the last standard net was set with snow, and Kaldheim is longer than the amount of time between Ice Age and Coldsnap.
I'm so old.
Ice Age was one of my first sets. Like, I remember stealing money from my mom's purse as a kid to like go down to the local game store and buy Ice Age packs. And I didn't even necessarily know what they did, but I just knew that it had really cool art on them, and I wanted to hang out with certain people in junior high. And yeah,
I mean, I knew a buddy of mine, he bought a box of starters, and I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Yeah. And we were hoping to get that Jester's cap, and it was great.
These pop up every once in a while where it's like, did you know that there was more time between something and Time Spiral and now? This was a couple years ago. And then there was like a Ravnica one.
Like, we're closer to the moon landing from so-and-so.
Yeah, we're closer to... Yeah, it was like... the woolly mammoths lived at the time of Cleopatra is what it feels like.
I just remember that being the coolest thing. Like, I remember my friends and I, we would pack into our friend Erin's van because he was the only one who had his license. Like, we were that young. And we would go to this place in West Dallas called VGC, which is Video Gaming Center. And I remember, like, when you see adults buying Magic, it's the coolest thing in the world. And I remember when I came back to the game, I took a really long break from the game. I came back around Innistrad, and I was, like, in my late 20s at that point. And the first thing I did was I went to the game store, and I was like, I'll take a box of everything, like Innistrad, Dark Ascension, and I just went home and just opened the packs with pack, remnants all around me, and just the coolest feeling where it's like I can afford a box. Like
MTG Young Mage was born the year Coldsnap came out.
That's wild.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's reality.
I'm so old.
We're so
I'm so old. I now have a pillow that I have to keep, a special pillow that I have to keep between my knees to work on my posture while I'm sleeping.
And what's his name? Sorry, is this not the pre-show? We can move on.
Pillow, Jesus.
That was
all
good.
Right.
That was good.
That was terrific. Reuben, quickly tell us about the Broken Pact coming back.
Oh, hi everybody. I'm the Internet's Mox Ruby, and I host a Dungeons and Dragons show. I am the Dungeon Master for the Broken Pact, which is # sponsored by Wizards of the Coast, produced by Saving Throw Show, and it is returning. It will be back February 15th, Monday, February 15th at 8 p.m., and we'll have 10 episodes in this coming season. It will be starring Riley Silverman, Ashlyn Rose, Jordan Pridgeon, and new cast member Danielle Radford. I'm excited for it to be back. We took 2020 off because, as was previously noted and reported here on this show, Wizards Internal has been kind of an adventure. So, but we're back for this year, hopefully more in the future. We are not going to be continuing the same storyline of the Broken Pact characters from Ravnica, or all of the Broken Pact characters from Ravnica, I should say. But it'll be in the same cinematic universe. Some of the characters will be the same, some of them will be different. The things that have occurred will have effects on what the new characters and new storyline will have.
A grand time will be had by all.
Yeah, and a grand time will be had by all. And we'll have some guest players and all that good stuff. So if you want more news on that, use the hashtag #TheBrokenPactRPG and pay attention to the Saving Throw Show, Twitch, Twitter, etc.
Very, very nice. All right. So unless you guys feel strongly about anything else here, I'm going to turn the corner.
No, I'm good.
See here.
No,
happy? Nothing at this time that I personally have a stake in. So.
I'm good.
Sure. All right, so let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Remember a month or so ago when we reported that an original 6-foot-tall Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering statue was uncovered in a thrift store waiting to be snapped up by some lucky Magic player? Well, guess what? That lucky person didn't just happen to be a Magic player, but is also a fan of Magic mics.
Aww.
And heard about the find thanks to our reporting.
Hey!
Now this handsome gentleman resides in Mox Moonstone's abode, thanks to our intrepid reporting.
Went out and got the thing.
That's awesome. And it's no surprise we are the premier weekly Magic the Gathering news podcast. So tell me, what's the next big news story we're going to break, Erin?
Oh, wow. Well, there's so many platforms, so many accounts and handles that have been blocked and banned from the internet, and more are on the horizon. So I'm pleased to announce your future home for all banned and restricted social media account news at Bob's Dugout.
That's starting to be a deep cut. I just want you to know.
It's a deep cut.
Of all time.
It's pretty rough. Reuben?
That one made me laugh, so I just decided to keep it. So Secret Lair The Walking Dead was the biggest hit for Wizards in 2020, and I have it on medium authority from a somewhat reliable source that not only will they continue down the path of IP bets, but they're going to step up the connections for the biggest hit on TV today. So get ready for the hit of 2021, Secret Lair The Mandalorian, featuring reskins of Smuggler's Copter, Bounty Hunter, Force Spike, and of course Meddling Kids.
Isn't it just kids?
It's a reskin.
Okay.
They'll make multiples. It'll be adorable. Okay. Absolutely love it. Now that it's 2021 is here, hindsight is 2020, of course, we can finally say goodbye to the year of murder hornets, zombie minks, and mysterious alien monoliths. 2021 has a lot to live up to, so it should come as no surprise to you that breaking news here on Magic Mike's, the most surprising news development of all time, Mono White wins the Pro Tour.
White doesn't have any good cards.
You know that the world, we're living in a simulation. You know that we are when that happens.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that ends another live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for having me, and stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, Reuben.
Thank you.
Move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-host, Erin Campbell, and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, on our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.